We recently shot an entire short film on the Sony FX9 with Zeiss Superspeed Lenses. And we're going to be doing a full-on comparison video with the FX9, but until then, we're going to be focusing on the lenses in this video. What makes cinema lenses special? Why do we use them? And who cares? But before we get into it, I want to say a special thanks to Panavision Johannesburg for providing all the gear for the shoot. Now, they did not sponsor this video or this channel, but they did provide the package from which these lenses are from, which is also why I don't have them in my hands, but you can imagine them right here, all 5 of them. Anyways, I shot a bunch of B-roll of them, so that's what you're going to be seeing in this video. So as I said before, we used 5 cinema lenses. They are all spherical, and they were 2 Zeiss Superspeed Distagon, 2 Zeiss Superspeed Planar, and 1 Panavision lens. I don't know exactly which Panavision lens it was, but they're all T1.3, and the focal length of each lens was 18mm, 25mm, 35mm, 50mm, and 85mm. All of the Zeiss lenses are the Mark I, which were made in the mid to late 80s. I think some of them might be the extended scale version, which was made in the late 80s. So these lenses are really old. I didn't get the exact model of the Panavision lens, but I assume it was around about the same time. And we'll be comparing these lenses to the Tamron 28-75, which I'm using right now on the Sony a7S III. Oh, stop commenting, stop. I know what you're gonna say and be like, oh, you can't compare those lenses. It's like comparing a Ferrari to a Ford Figo. That's not even in the same league. It's not made for the same thing. And you're right, okay, relax. Those lenses are very different, but we're gonna explore what's different about them. That's the point of the video. So let's continue on. Now, the biggest physical difference that a lot of people speak about is the fact that cinema lenses have no autofocus. The truth of the matter is that it's not necessary, because if you're on the level where you're using these kinds of lenses, you probably have a dedicated focus puller who is 10-to-1 using a wireless follow focus system, or you just have a very experienced DOP who is pulling his own focus while he's operating. And you do that with follow focus, which is a gear that attaches to the ring which is on the lens, and then you can pull focus. Now, the Tamron is a zoom lens that also has autofocus, which is extremely helpful in these sort of situations where there's nobody else here and I don't have to worry about the focus. Like, I can move back, I can move forward, I can put my hand up, take it away, and things are just in focus. On camera videos, we usually get a lot of comments, people saying, oh, I don't understand the autofocus versus manual focus thing. It doesn't matter. It's not that hard. Or if you're a professional, you're not going to use autofocus. If you're an amateur, you're not going to use manual focus. I'm not going to get into the debate. You can believe what you want to believe. I'm just saying, cinema lenses do not have autofocus, and photo lenses do. They also have manual focus, but in order to use the manual focus with a follow focus, you need something like this, which has the gears on the sides for you to pull focus. The barrel is also much longer. So some cinema lenses have a 360-degree barrel, which means from minimum focus to infinity is a whole rotation of the focus gear. So you can get very, very precise with your focus. With a lot of photo cameras, and especially this Tamron, it's actually a focus by wire system. So it uses the velocity at which you are pulling focus to change the focus, meaning that the marks are never the same. So it's not the ideal lens to be pulling manual focus on. And if you're shooting narrative stuff, you might want to, in the middle of a shot, pull to something else. And it's very difficult with especially this Tamron lens. So I'm not going to debate which is better, autofocus, manual focus. I'm just telling you some of the lenses have autofocus. The cinema lenses do not have autofocus. That's just how it is. But you know what you also shouldn't debate is smashing the like button. Please, I would really appreciate it, and it really helps us out with the algorithm, which I'm sure everybody's telling you on all the videos that you watch. But do it, please. The cinema lenses are a T1.3 and the Tamron is an f2.8. Now, if you don't know what that means or what the difference is between a T-stop and an f-stop, basically T-stops are manufactured to be exactly spot on. F-stops are manufactured really quickly in the factory, it's calibrated, but it's not 100% on point every time. So it's very close, but it's not exact. Whereas cinema lenses are always checked, they're always calibrated. Your T1.3 will always be a T1.3. So if you're doing things like lighting with a light meter, your light meter will always correspond with your lens. So that's something that's very important to high-end productions, which is why something like a T-stop is more preferable to an f-stop. From T1.3 to f2.8 is around about 2 stops, and what this means is that the Tamron lens is 2 stops of light darker than the cinema lenses. And the cinema lenses are called Superspeeds. So that is why they are so fast. They are a fast lens. It's a T1.3. Not all cinema lenses are T1.3, but the Superspeeds have that reputation. And a lot of directors, DOPs, won't even shoot at T1.3. A lot of them prefer to shoot T4, T5.6, T8, and that just sort of comes down to artistic intention. Maybe it's too bright outside, it's too dark inside, you're shooting at night. All these things, you don't always have to shoot wide open. And across both lenses, if you open up the aperture, things like vignetting, aberrations, that kind of thing actually gets less intense. It's also much easier to pull focus at T4 than T1.3, as you can imagine. Another really cool quality is the shape of these lenses' flares. The Zeiss lenses have this hexagonal. The Zeiss lenses have flares in the shape of hexagons. The Tamron flares are a lot more round and a lot more subtle, but they are much less defined. These lenses are all spherical, so it's not the cool J.J. Abrams anamorphic flare across the whole screen, but it's a very interesting look, and it sort of has a very cinematic quality. But a lot of people don't like the hexagonal. I'm going with hexagonal. A lot of people don't like the shape of the bokeh from these lenses. They prefer it to be more round, and that is basically caused by the amount of aperture blades that these lenses have. So they have 6 blades, which is how we get hexagonal flares. Ugh, so much talk about shapes and hexagons and spheres and circles. You know what's a much easier shape? A rectangle. And you know what's in a rectangle? The subscribe button. So if you're coming around to this video and, watching this kind of video, maybe hit subscribe, The Zeiss lenses are actually super 35mm lenses, which means that they were made to cover an area of a super 35mm film. They were made in the 80s, so that was the standard. Super 35mm film, like an actual reel of 35mm film. And these lenses were made to cover that film strip. Now, the FX9 that we shot on is a full frame camera, so the 18mm was completely unusable. You can see the vignetting around here. If we zoom in there, we basically get to a 25mm, and instead of using the resolution to crop in to a usable area, we're just using a new lens, which is the 25mm. And you can still see a little bit of vignetting on the side, but you can fix that by changing to the 5K crop mode of this camera. And also we shot this film to be 2.35 aspect ratio, which means that, the top and bottom parts of this frame is actually going to get cut off anyways. So we didn't worry too much about those corners, but it did mean that we had an extra lens that we just didn't use because it just doesn't work on this camera. The Tamron lens is a full frame lens, so we were able to use that on the FX9 without any issues. However, it is a 28mm to 75mm, but our cinema lenses go from 18mm to 85mm, so it's wider on the wide end and closer on the long end. But you can sort of get an idea of what these two lenses look like side by side. I did move the tripod further away when we got to the longer lenses because it was really close on Michael's face. So maybe I should have left it static just for consistency, but you know, this is what we have. What I found was really interesting is that even from the 35mm, there's no more vignetting on a full frame sensor. So it stands to reason that you don't always have to buy full frame lenses, maybe just from a certain focal range. I remember with my A7 III, I used to have a 50mm f1.8 lens, and that lens was actually made for APS-C cameras. But because it's a 50mm, it actually magnifies the light so much that it could cover the full frame sensor. So that was very interesting to me. In my humble opinion, I would much rather shoot a film on the Zeiss lenses than the Tamron, which is obvious. I don't know if you thought I was gonna say I wanted to rather shoot on the Tamron. I don't know what you were expecting. Obviously a lens that costs 120,000 Rand, or that's $8,000, obviously that's gonna be much better than the zoom lens that you're gonna get for 16,000 Rand or $1,000. Obviously I'm gonna go for the cinema lenses if I can get them. But that also means that at that cost, I'm only gonna be renting them, which means that there has to be a budget. For client work, for YouTube videos, I'm always gonna use the Tamron. So I will only ever rent cinema lenses for narrative work or maybe commercial work where there's a massive budget. YouTube videos, it's just never gonna happen. The autofocus is really nice. Like I said, the fact that I can just zoom is really nice. I'm even still gonna be shooting films on this lens when we're not using the Blackmagic. That's because this lens gets it done. There were definitely differences between the two lenses, and you know, the cinema lenses do look a much nicer, it renders the skin much nicer. It's a much better lens. But at that cost, I'm not gonna buy them. And I shouldn't. If you see anybody using cinema lenses to shoot YouTube videos, I hope that they're making a bunch of money, because it doesn't make any sense to me. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this video, and just another shout out to Panavision Johannesburg for providing the gear for the short film. Again, they did not sponsor this video or our channel, and we are going to be making a couple of FX9 comparison videos in the future. So if there's something specific that you want to know about the FX9, please leave it down there in the comments, and then we will address it in that video. And if you enjoyed this video, please smash like and then browse the channel. We've got a ton of videos on filmmaking, where it's camera videos, editing videos, writing videos, a whole bunch of stuff. So feel free to browse, and then after you've watched a couple of our videos, hit subscribe. I would really appreciate that. But until next time, go out there, stay safe, and make your movie.